The autumn breeze swept through Manhattan's Upper East Side as Emma Martinez stood at the wrought iron gates of Westbrook Academy, clutching the worn strap of her thrifted backpack. The prestigious private school loomed before her like a cathedral of privilege, its ivy-covered walls housing the children of New York's elite. Emma adjusted her second-hand sweater and took a deep breath, remembering her grandfather's words. Did someone's maid get lost on her way to the service entrance? A sharp voice cut through the morning air. Madison Wells, perfectly styled in designer wear, stood at the top of the marble steps with her entourage. Their laughter echoed across the courtyard, drawing curious stares from other students arriving in their chauffeur-driven cars. Emma's fingers instinctively traced the small, tarnished locket hidden beneath her collar, the last gift from her grandfather. Her mind drifted to that final afternoon in the hospital, just 3 months ago. "My Pequena," he had whispered, his weathered hand squeezing hers. "Promise me something." The monitors had beeped steadily in the background of the sterile room, a stark contrast to the warm luxury of their penthouse 40 floors above Central Park. "Promise me you'll understand the true value of our legacy." "I promise, abuelo," she'd answered, fighting back tears. "Money is paper, Emma." Character that's gold. His eyes, though tired, had sparkled with wisdom. "Learn who you are without the Martinez name. Learn who others are when they don't know it either." Now, as Madison's group descended the steps, their designer heels clicking against marble, Emma straightened her shoulders. Her worn-out sneakers might not be Louboutins, but they had carried her through 6 homeless shelter volunteer shifts last week alone. "Oh my God, is that a Goodwill tag you forgot to remove?" Madison's perfectly manicured finger pointed at Emma's sweater. Her followers erupted in practiced giggles. "Sweetheart, there's a donation bin behind the school. I think you misunderstood its purpose." Emma felt heat rise to her cheeks, not from shame but from the effort of holding back a smile. If they only knew that the Martinez financial empire's Heiress was standing before them, choosing to wear thrifted clothes while her closet full of couture gathered dust. "Actually," Emma replied, her voice steady, "I think I understand its purpose perfectly." She walked past them, her worn sneakers silent against the polished floor of Westbrook Academy. Behind her, she heard Madison's dismissive scoff, followed by a stage whisper, "Can you believe they're letting just anyone in here now?" Emma headed toward her first class, the weight of her grandfather's last lesson sitting heavier than any inheritance could. The hallways of Westbrook were about to teach her more about human nature than any business lesson ever could. And maybe, just maybe, she'd teach them something in return. In her mind, she could still hear her grandfather's chuckle. "Show them what real gold looks like, my Pequena. Show them what real gold looks like." The Martinez penthouse occupied the top 2 floors of the Azure, Manhattan's most exclusive residential tower. Emma stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of her bedroom, gazing at the glittering city below. Her reflection showed a simple white t-shirt and jeans, a stark contrast to the rows of Chanel, Gucci, and Dior hanging untouched in her walk-in closet. Miss Emma Carmen, their housekeeper since Emma was born, appeared at the door. "Your breakfast is ready. I made your favorite chilaquiles." "Thanks," Carmen. Emma smiled, grabbing her worn backpack. "But I'll just grab a banana. I want to catch the subway." Carmen's face crinkled with concern. "The subway? But Jose is waiting with the car." "I know." Emma hugged the older woman. "Tell him to take the morning off." The pristine marble kitchen countertops held a spread fit for royalty, but Emma merely grabbed a fruit and hurried to the private elevator. As she descended 90 floors, she thought about Madison Wells and her followers Olivia, Sophia, and Blair, who ruled Westbrook's social hierarchy with platinum cards and casual cruelty. Yesterday, she'd overheard them in the bathroom. "Did you see her at lunch?" Madison had sneered, reapplying her signature red lipstick, eating alone like some charity case. "Total scholarship material," Olivia had agreed, adjusting her pearl earrings. They hadn't noticed Emma in the stall, and she'd stayed quiet, remembering her grandfather's words from their last Sunday dinner together. He'd pushed away his untouched Wagyu steak, his appetite already failing. "Money shows you who people aren't, my Pequena," he'd said, watching the sunset paint their dining room gold. "Take it away, and you see who they really are." The subway car jerked, bringing Emma back to the present. Beside her sat Sam Chen, her only friend at Westbrook, nose buried in a calculus textbook. "You know," Sam said without looking up, Most people with a $50 million trust fund don't take the B train. Emma grinned. Sam was the only person who knew her secret, and only because they'd been childhood friends before his family lost everything in the 2008 crash. Now, he attended Westbrook on a full academic scholarship, his brilliant mind his only currency in their privileged world. Maybe that's why I have it, and they don't, Emma replied, thinking of Madison's clique. Sam finally looked up, his dark eyes serious. Your grandfather would be proud, you know. Not many people would give up everything you had to prove a point. Emma touched her locket, remembering the day of the will reading. The family lawyers had gathered in their penthouse library, their faces grave as they announced that Antonio Martinez, founder of Martinez Financial Group, had left his entire fortune, all $4.5 billion, to his only grandchild. But there was a catch. To receive your full inheritance at 21, the lawyer had read, you must first complete your senior year at Westbrook Academy under the following conditions: no access to family wealth, no revelation of your identity, no private transportation, no luxury items. He'd peered at Emma over his glasses. Your grandfather believed that true character is revealed not in how we treat our equals, but in how we treat those we believe to be beneath us. The subway screeched to a halt at their stop. As Emma and Sam climbed the stairs to the street, they spotted Madison's group emerging from a black SUV, their designer bags catching the morning light. Someone should tell Daddy Wells' company's stock dropped again, Sam muttered, checking his phone. Third quarter in a row. Guess that's why Madison's been extra nasty lately. Emma watched Madison strut past, remembering how her grandfather had once helped the Wells family avoid bankruptcy. Sometimes the people who act the richest are the ones closest to losing it all, he'd told her. Must be hard, Emma mused, building your whole identity around something that could disappear overnight. Sam snorted. Yeah, well, not everyone has your perspective, or your secret billions. They entered Westbrook's grounds, where Madison held court on the front steps. Her circle parted as a freshman approached, seeking permission to sit with them at lunch. Sorry, Madison's voice carried across the courtyard, but we have standards. Maybe try the charity table? I hear Emma Martinez could use the company. The freshman scurried away, cheeks burning. Emma felt her own face flush, not with embarrassment but with recognition. She'd been that girl once, believing designer labels could buy belonging. Her grandfather had seen it happening and had orchestrated this entire lesson, his final gift to her. You okay, Sam asked as they headed to class. Emma nodded, watching Madison's group disappear into the building. You know what's funny? They think they're teaching me about status, but I'm learning about humanity. And somewhere between their judgment and my secrets, I'm figuring out exactly who I want to be when this is all over. And who's that? Emma smiled, thinking of her grandfather's favorite saying, someone who knows the difference between price and value. The first bell rang, sending students scurrying to their classrooms. Emma paused at her locker, trading her banana peel for her history textbook. Above her, a massive portrait of her grandfather hung in the hall, a recent donation from an anonymous benefactor. Nobody noticed how the subject's eyes seemed to twinkle with mischief, watching his granddaughter navigate the very lesson he'd spent his final days planning. Game on, Abuelo, Emma whispered. Game on. The October chill crept through Westbrook's halls as Emma organized canned goods for the school's food drive. She'd spent the morning arranging donations, but the collection boxes remained embarrassingly empty. Madison sauntered past, designer boots clicking against marble floors. Oh, how fitting, Madison smirked, nudging Olivia. The charity case running the charity drive, she kicked one of the empty boxes. Guess no one here needs handouts except you. Emma continued stacking cans, remembering the faces at Hope Haven shelter where she volunteered. Last night she'd served dinner to a former Wall Street executive who'd lost everything in a market crash. Sometimes, he'd told her while accepting a bowl of soup, rock bottom shows you who you really are. Actually, Emma stood, brushing dust from her jeans. These donations aren't for Westbrook students. They're for Hope Haven shelter downtown. Hope Haven. Madison's perfectly sculpted eyebrows rose. That dump by the train tracks? Please. Like anyone from Westbrook would be caught dead there. Sam appeared beside Emma, arms full of canned goods. Some of us care about more than being caught somewhere, Madison. Madison's eyes narrowed at Sam. Right. The The scholarship charity case defending the thrift store charity case. How poetic. Later that afternoon, Emma and Sam sat in their hidden spot behind the library, sharing a package of cookies Emma had baked. Their friendship had grown stronger over the past weeks, built on shared secrets and genuine understanding. But, you know, Sam said between bites, you could end her bullying campaign with one phone call. Just reveal who you are. Emma watched a fallen leaf dance across the courtyard. That would defeat the whole purpose, wouldn't it? Besides, she pulled out her tablet. I think karma's taking care of things. She showed Sam the latest financial news. Wells Industries stock had plummeted another 15%. Rumors of bankruptcy swirled through Wall Street. Madison's picture-perfect world was crumbling, though she didn't know it yet. That explains the foreclosure notice I saw yesterday, Sam whispered. I was dropping off math notes at her house, and there was a letter on the doorstep. Does she know? Doubt it. She's still planning some huge Sweet 16 party at the plaza. The intercom crackled to life, interrupting their conversation. Attention students, this year's Winter Charity Gala will be held next month. The theme is hidden wealth finding value in unexpected places. Emma nearly choked on her cookie. She could almost hear her grandfather laughing from above. That evening at Hope Haven, Emma served meals while pondering the irony of the gala's theme. She'd just finished cleaning the kitchen when she heard familiar voices outside. This is literally the worst thing ever, Madison's voice carried through the window. Emma peered out to see Madison and her mother in their Range Rover, parked across the street. Madison, please understand, Mrs. Wells pleaded. We have to sell the car. The house too, probably. This is so embarrassing. What will everyone at school say? Maybe it's time to care less about what they say and more about who we are, Mrs. Wells responded, sounding tired. But Emma's heart twisted with unexpected empathy. She remembered Madison's campaign that morning, how she'd convinced everyone to empty their food drive donations into the dumpster, claiming it would attract the wrong element to Westbrook. The next day, Emma arrived early to find the halls plastered with printouts of her serving food at Hope Haven. Charity Case serves her own kind screened the captions. Students whispered and pointed. Madison stood triumphant by the main staircase. I had my driver follow you last night, she announced. Guess playing poor wasn't enough, you had to go full homeless helper. Emma felt Sam tense beside her, ready to defend her, but she placed a calm hand on his arm. You know what, Madison? You're right. I do help the homeless. I serve food, I sort donations, and I listen to their stories. Want to know what I've learned? Madison's confident smirk wavered slightly. I've learned that most of them never thought they'd end up there. They had homes, cars, designer clothes until one day they didn't. Emma stepped closer, her voice gentle. It's amazing how quickly everything can change. Color drained from Madison's face. Behind her, Olivia scrolled through her phone, gasping. Oh my God, Madison, your dad's company, it's all over the news. The hallway erupted in murmurs as students pulled out their phones, reading headlines about Wells Industries' collapse. Madison stood frozen, her carefully constructed world shattering in real time. Emma moved past her, pausing briefly. There's a dinner service at Hope Haven tonight at 6, just in case you ever need to know. The day of the Winter Charity Gala announcement transformed Westbrook's social landscape. Madison stopped coming to school, her absence creating a vacuum in the social hierarchy. Emma doubled her efforts at the food drive, and slowly students began to contribute, first the scholarship kids, then others, until even the wealthy students joined in. Sam found Emma after school, practically bouncing with excitement. You'll never believe what I just heard. The gala's guest of honor? It's the CEO of Martinez Financial Group, your father. Emma's breath caught. She hadn't seen her father since starting this experiment. It was part of the conditions. Does anyone know? That you're his daughter? No. But here's the interesting part, the gala's raising money for financial literacy programs in underprivileged communities. Your grandfather's legacy project. Emma touched her locket, tears pricking her eyes. Even now, her grandfather was orchestrating lessons in value and worth. That evening, Emma stared at her reflection in the penthouse windows again. Below, the city lights twinkled like stars, while behind her, the untouched designer clothes hung like beautiful ghosts. Her phone buzzed with a text from Sam Madison's at Hope Haven. Volunteer orientation. Emma smiled, remembering her grandfather's words about money showing who people aren't. Sometimes, it seemed, losing it showed who they could become. The Winter Charity Gala invitation sat on her desk, its gold lettering catching the light. Hidden wealth finding value in unexpected places. Soon, her carefully constructed experiment would reach its climax, and all of Westbrook would learn what real wealth looked like. But for now, she had dinner to serve at Hope Haven, where Madison Wells was about to learn her first lesson about true value from the very girl she'd spent months trying to tear down. Conflict escalation. The day before the Winter Charity Gala, Emma arrived at Westbrook to find chaos. The mountain of carefully sorted donations for Hope Haven lay scattered across the school's front lawn, food containers burst open, clothing strewn through mud puddles. At the center of the destruction stood Madison, her designer boots splashed with dirt, eyes wild with desperate triumph. "Oops," Madison announced to the gathering crowd. "Guess the janitor must have accidentally dumped everything out here last night. Such a shame about your little charity project." Emma stood motionless, her heart pounding. 3 weeks of collections, dozens of volunteers' efforts, and the winter supplies for over 50 families all ruined. Behind Madison, several students filmed the scene on their phones, while others whispered and pointed. "You know what?" Madison continued, her voice pitched for maximum audience effect. "Maybe this is a sign. Westbrook Academy isn't some soup kitchen. If you love charity so much, why don't you just transfer to public school?" Emma felt the weight of her locket against her chest. One phone call to the Martinez Foundation could replace everything tenfold. One revelation of her true identity would end this instantly. But her fingers itched to reach for her phone, but her grandfather's voice echoed in her memory. "The true test of character isn't what you can do, me pequena. It's what you choose to do." Sam pushed through the crowd, his face flushed with anger. "This is too far, Madison. Just because your family's going bankrupt." "Shut up," Madison whirled on him, her composure cracking. "You don't know anything." "I know your dad's been selling company assets," Sam pressed. "I know there are foreclosure signs on your house. I know you've been shopping at the same thrift stores you mock Emma for." Madison lunged at Sam, but Emma stepped between them. "Stop. Both of you." The crowd had grown larger, phones recording every moment. Madison's eyes darted around, realizing she'd lost control of the situation. She grabbed Emma's backpack, upending it onto the muddy ground. Emma's locket slipped from a side pocket, landing with a splash. "What's this?" Madison snatched it up. "More second-hand jewelry." "Give it back." Emma's voice was quiet but firm. "That was my grandfather's." "Oh yeah? Did you fish it out of a donation bin too?" Madison dangled the locket over a storm drain. Emma felt something snap inside her. Not the locket, the last piece of her grandfather, the man who'd built an empire from nothing, who'd taught her that true wealth wasn't in bank accounts but in character. Her hand shot out, grabbing Madison's wrist with surprising strength. "That's enough." The words came out in her grandfather's tone, the one he'd used in boardrooms and billion-dollar negotiations. The crowd fell silent. In the cafeteria later that day, the tension was palpable. Emma sat with Sam, picking at her homemade lunch, while students whispered around them. "You should have seen your face out there," Sam said quietly. "For a second, you looked exactly like the portrait in the main hall. Your grandfather would be." "What did you say?" Emma's head snapped up. Sam smiled gently. "Emma, I've known since day one. That portrait? It's identical to the photo in your locket. Antonio Martinez, the finance legend who started as a janitor and built an empire. Your grandfather." Before Emma could respond, Madison's voice cut through the cafeteria. She stood on a table, clapping for attention. "Everyone, I have an announcement." Her voice trembled slightly. "I'm hosting an alternate event the night of the charity gala. A real party, at the Plaza Hotel. Everyone who's anyone will be there." The cafeteria remained uncomfortably quiet. Finally, Olivia spoke up. "Madison, didn't your dad cancel your Sweet 16 at the Plaza?" "That's just a rumor." Madison's voice rose hysterically. "My family is fine. We're better than fine. Unlike some people." She glared at Emma. "We're actually somebody in this city." Emma stood slowly, aware of all eyes on her. For a moment, she saw herself through the crowd's eyes, the girl in thrifted clothes, who served at homeless shelters, who'd never fought back against months of bullying. Then she saw herself through her grandfather's eyes, the heiress to billions, choosing to learn about value in the hardest possible way. "You're right, Madison," Emma said clearly. "Some of us are somebody in this city, but maybe not the somebody we pretend to be." Madison's face contorted. "What would you know about being somebody? You're nothing. Your clothes are from Goodwill, you take the subway, you serve food to homeless people. And those things make me nothing." Emma stepped closer to Madison's table. "Is that really what you think creates value?" The cafeteria was dead silent now. Madison's confident facade crumbled entirely. "I am somebody," she whispered, but her voice cracked. "I have to be somebody." Emma reached out her hand. "Come down from there, Madison. Please." For a long moment, the two girls locked eyes, the supposed charity case and the fallen queen bee, both hiding secrets bigger than themselves. Finally, Madison took Emma's hand, stepping down from the table. Tomorrow was the Winter Charity Gala. Tomorrow, Emma's father would arrive as the guest of honor. Tomorrow, every secret would come to light. But today, in a crowded cafeteria, two girls from different worlds found common ground in the space between who they were pretending to be and who they were becoming. Madison's phone buzzed another news alert about Wells Industries. Emma pretended not to notice the tears in her former tormentor's eyes as she whispered, "I don't know how to be nobody." Emma squeezed her hand gently. "Then let me teach you about being somebody real." The Winter Charity Gala transformed Westbrook's gymnasium into an elegant ballroom, crystal chandeliers casting warm light over silk-draped tables. Students in formal wear mingled with New York's elite, while reporters hovered near the entrance, awaiting the arrival of Martinez Financial Group's CEO. Madison stood in a corner, wearing a dress that still bore its thrift store tag. Her eyes darted nervously between her phone displaying headlines about Wells Industries' bankruptcy filing and the gathering crowd of Manhattan's financial elite. Emma entered quietly, wearing a simple black dress. She watched the scene unfold from the shadows, knowing that in moments everything would change. Sam appeared beside her, adjusting his borrowed tie. "Ready?" he whispered. "Oh." Before Emma could answer, a commotion erupted at the entrance. Mr. Wells, Madison's father, was arguing with security. "This is ridiculous." "I'm a board member here." "Was a board member," someone corrected loudly. "Before the bankruptcy." Madison rushed toward her father, but froze as cameras began flashing. Reporters swarmed, shouting questions about Wells Industries' collapse and the millions lost by investors. "Madison," Mrs. Wells called out, trying to reach her daughter through the crowd. "We need to go." Then everything stopped. The crowd parted as Emma's father, Antonio Martinez Jr., CEO of Martinez Financial Group, entered the room. His presence commanded attention, but his eyes searched until they found Emma. "My hija," he said softly. The room erupted in confused whispers. Madison turned slowly, her face draining of color, as she looked between Emma and the man whose company had just acquired the remains of Wells Industries. Did he just say, "That can't be"? Bond be. The Martinez Heiress. Emma stepped forward into the light, and suddenly everyone saw it her resemblance to the portrait hanging above them, her grandfather's confident pose, the quiet authority she'd carried all along. I believe Emma's voice carried across the silent room. Tonight's theme is hidden wealth finding value in unexpected places. Madison swayed slightly, realization crashing over her. "All this time you were but I." "The girl you mocked for taking the subway," Emma approached her slowly. "The charity case you bullied? The nobody serving food at Hope Haven?" Each question made Madison flinch. "Yes. I was all of those things. By choice." Tears streamed down Madison's face as photographers captured her public humiliation. She turned to flee, but Emma caught her arm. "But Madison," Emma continued, softer now, "I was also the girl who saw you at Hope Haven last week, serving dinner to the same people you used to mock. The girl who watched you learn the same lesson I did, that we are not our bank accounts." Madison collapsed into sobs. "Why didn't you stop me? Why didn't you tell everyone who you were? I was horrible to you." "Because my grandfather taught me that character isn't about having money." Emma gestured to the portrait above. "It's about what you do when you don't have it." The room was utterly silent now. Every phone, every camera focused on the two girls, the secret heiress and her former bully, standing in the harsh light of truth. "Ladies and gentlemen," Emma addressed the crowd, her voice steady. "My grandfather built Martinez Financial from nothing. He taught me that true wealth isn't in our portfolios, it's in our choices. Tonight, all proceeds from this gala will go to Hope Haven Shelter, where I've had the privilege of serving alongside some of the strongest people I've ever met." She turned to Madison, "including some surprising new volunteers." Madison wiped her eyes, mascara streaking her cheeks. "I don't deserve your kindness." "Maybe not," Emma agreed. "But kindness isn't about deserving. It's about deciding who we want to be." She held out her hand. "So, Madison Wells, who do you want to be?" The cameras flashed as Madison took Emma's hand, both girls illuminated under the chandeliers, one in her simple dress that cost more than most cars, the other in her thrift store gown, both finely authentic in who they were. Above them, in his portrait, Antonio Martinez seemed to smile, watching his final lesson unfold exactly as he'd planned. Sometimes, Emma realized, the greatest inheritance isn't what's in your bank account, it's what you learn on the way to claiming it. Resolution growth. Standing at the podium in Westbrook's Grand Hall, Emma surveyed the faces before her, students, teachers and press, all eager to hear from the Martinez Heiress, who had chosen to learn life's hardest lessons in plain sight. "When my grandfather left me his company," Emma began, her voice clear and steady, "he also left me a choice. I could inherit wealth, or I could inherit wisdom. The past few months have taught me that true worth isn't something you can buy, it's something you can buy, it's something you earn through your actions, your choices, and most importantly, your treatment of others." In the front row, Madison sat quietly, her designer clothes replaced by a simple blazer. Her eyes, once sharp with judgment, now held understanding. "We often confuse price with value," Emma continued. "But at Hope Haven, I met bankers who lost everything and found purpose. I served meals alongside former executives who discovered that their greatest assets weren't in their portfolios, but in their capacity for kindness." Emma paused, touching her grandfather's locket. "Today, I'm announcing the establishment of the Antonio Martinez Foundation for Educational Equity. Every year, it will provide full scholarships to students who demonstrate not just academic excellence, but true character." The announcement met with applause, but what happened next surprised everyone. Madison stood up and walked to the podium. "I'd like to say something," she said softly. Emma nodded, stepping aside. Madison faced her peers, hands trembling slightly. "For years, I thought being somebody meant having everything. Then I lost everything. And Emma, the girl I'd tormented, showed me that I could still be somebody worth being." She turned to Emma. "I'm sorry. Not just for the bullying, but for not seeing the lesson you were trying to teach all of us." After the assembly, Emma found Madison sorting donations at the new Hope Haven Collection Center, now permanently established in Westbrook's East Wing. "The Scholarship Foundation needs a student director," Emma said, leaning against the doorframe. "Someone who understands both sides of the wealth divide." Madison looked up, surprised. "You'd trust me with that?" "Sometimes," Emma smiled, "the people who learn the hardest lessons make the best teachers." Over the following months, Westbrook transformed. The designer label hierarchy crumbled as students began valuing actions over appearances. Madison and Emma, once adversaries, developed an unlikely friendship built on shared understanding and growth. They often sat together during lunch, planning foundation initiatives. Sam joined them, bringing his brilliant mind for numbers and genuine heart for helping others. The trio became known not for their bank accounts, but for their efforts to make Westbrook a place where character outweighed currency. "You know what's funny," Madison said one afternoon as they served at Hope Haven. "I used to think being rich meant having everything. Now I know being rich means having enough to share." Emma watched her former bully gently serve soup to a newly arrived family, treating them with the dignity she'd once reserved for the wealthy. "Abuelo would say you've learned the difference between price and value." The Martinez empire had gained more than profits that year. It had gained a leader who understood that true wealth wasn't just about growing assets, it was about growing hearts and minds. As Emma looked around at her transformed school community, where designer labels had given way to character, where former bullies had become advocates for change, where wealth was measured not in dollars, but in deeds, she knew her grandfather's final lesson had created ripples far beyond one Heiress learning humility. "But you were right, Abuelo," she whispered, touching her locket. Sometimes the richest people are the ones who know the true value of nothing and everything all at once. Madison appeared beside her, carrying a box of donations, ready to change more lives. Emma smiled, thinking of how far they'd both come. Always, together, the Heiress and the reformed Queen Bee walked into their shared future, proving that sometimes the greatest transformations happen not when we gain everything, but when we're willing to risk losing it all to find something far more precious, our true selves. Conclusion. 1 year after the Winter Charity Gala revelation, Westbrook Academy buzzed with a different kind of energy. Where designer logos once dominated, now students wore Hope Haven volunteer badges with pride. The marble halls that had once echoed with whispers of wealth now rang with discussions of community service projects and scholarship initiatives. Emma stood before her grandfather's portrait, adjusting its frame, a morning ritual she'd developed. The wise eyes seemed to twinkle down at her, as if sharing a secret joke about how his final lesson had transformed not just his granddaughter, but an entire school culture. "Hey," Madison called, rushing up with a stack of papers. "The foundation approved 10 new scholarships for next year. And guess what? 3 of them are going to kids from Hope Haven." Emma smiled, remembering the girl who'd once judged others by their shoes. Now Madison headed both the scholarship committee and the volunteer program, her former expertise in social hierarchy transformed into a gift for connecting people across economic divides. The morning announcements crackled through the speakers. Westbrook had been recognized nationally, not for its wealthy student body, but for having the highest percentage of student volunteers in the state. The Martinez Foundation's model was being adopted by other private schools across the country. "You know what?" Abielo, Emma whispered to the portrait. "I finally understand. Wealth isn't what's in our wallets, it's what's in our hearts. And character. That's the one thing money can't buy." The morning sun streamed through Westbrook's windows, illuminating students of all backgrounds walking together, their laughter echoing through halls that had learned to value authenticity over affluence. Above them, Antonio Martinez's portrait watched over his greatest investment, not the billions in his company, but the lesson that had taught a generation that true richness starts with kindness, and the wealthiest people are those rich in character.